Shalom, truth seekers. Alright, here we go. Calendar discussion. You know, this is just where I'm currently at. By all means, please let us have loving iron sharpening iron. But I'm going to share my thoughts regarding the luminary data I've been seeing lately, and I just wanted to mention, you know, again, I don't claim to have it all figured out. I'm seeking the truth diligently, in love with a pure heart, to the best of my abilities. And just remember this. Check out this verse here in 1 Chronicles 12:32. And the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do. Okay, I thought there was something more in there. Anyway, it's odd that it mentions this group of men who had understanding of the times to know what Israel ought to do. What this verse seems to be telling me is, you know, not everybody was able to, like, yeah, how about that? I was just mentioning in the other video you can't depend on just one man, but from what this verse seems to be saying, it seems to be saying essentially it's not the most straightforward thing to I mean, it doesn't seem like everybody understood the times. It almost seems like Israel was relying on a few men to kind of help them. So I don't mean to I don't that might have been the case back then, but I certainly encourage people to do their own due diligence. I just, in my previous video, I made like a, what do you call it? I was just talking about the parable of the 10 virgins and how, you know, 10 virgins had their oil and were ready and 10 didn't, and you can't rely on other people to do your homework for you. I mean, at some point, if the Creator has put something upon your heart, like for example to dig deeper to understand his set times or the movements of his timepieces, the heavenly luminaries per Genesis 1:14, you need to dig in, and you need to make sure you're digging in, because at the last minute, if like people such as myself who do spend a lot of time on this, if things happen where a last minute decision needs to be made, like I'm going to make that decision, you know, in confidence, you know, in the integrity of my heart, because of, you know, I've done my homework, and, you know, essentially my oil lamp is full of oil, like I'm doing the best I can. But if, you know, the other people, they haven't done their homework, then, you know, it's hard for them to make a decision on, you know, if there's not much time to make that decision. And, you know, they need to spend time going and looking into things to try and understand what's going on, or, you know. So I do recommend everybody really, you know, dig into the things that the Creator has put upon your heart, and don't rely on other people to do it for you. There's certainly value in iron sharpening iron, but, you know, dig in, and the more of us digging in and the more iron sharpening iron, you know, I just know that the Creator designed some of his truth seeking to be that way. He'll reveal things to you directly, or, you know, kind of on your one-on-one time with him, but I think he also uses truth seekers to kind of bring different puzzle pieces together. But so anyway, I just wanted to say, like, it does seem from the example we see in the scriptures like this wasn't the most straightforward thing. I mean, also, if you think about the wise men who came, you know, to find Yeshua, I guess soon after he was born. Maybe it was a couple years, but anyway, you know, they're called the wise men for a reason, and I think, you know, that's because they understood the stars and the signs and the times and stuff. So it does take diligence to understand some of these things, and I just encourage you to dig in. I'm certainly not calling myself a wise man. If anything in here sounds confusing, it's because I have not yet attained. I'm just kind of trying to the best of my abilities. So anyway, I do I do videos like these because of this verse in Leviticus 23:4, and it says, "These are the feasts of Yahweh, even holy convocations, which ye shall proclaim in their seasons." And so I am proclaiming, to the best of my knowledge and ability, you know, willing to have discussion, and, you know, if I have to adjust my understanding of things, but this is where I'm currently at, and so I am going to currently let you know when I think the Creator's times are for these upcoming holy days. And you know, it's for whatever it's worth, I'm just trying to be obedient to the instruction I see here. If nothing else, loving iron sharpening iron. But certainly, you know, obedience to my Creator. So anyway, let's jump into discussion on all of this luminary data that I and others have been collecting. Okay, so here's the thing. I think it's important to go back to this. This was data. This is the only data that I have ever collected to date in, like, whatever it's been, 3 years of, like, experimenting with sundials and stuff. This seasonal transition from this past winter, from the season of fall to winter, was the only seasonal transition that, and I have tried to confirm everyone for the past 2 to 3 years, and this is the only seasonal transition that I actually do feel comfortable about the data that was collected, because I was using, like, a very tall sundial. It was like a multi-100-foot tall cell phone tower, and I was looking at the movements of that shadow, and the movements are much more pronounced when you have a taller sundial. And so instead of splitting hairs with a smaller sundial trying to decide, did it go this way or that way, the movements were quite clear. As you can see, you know, I was marking these X's on the road as the shadow was moving, and so it would make these lines, and this pattern, and I would just connect the lines. So here was on the 19th, and then it jumped over here on the 20th, and it was running here, and it jumped to the 21st, and then you see a return back to the 22nd. And this, like I said, this was a clear seasonal transition, the only clear seasonal transition that I have ever seen. And so a lot of my calendar understanding is based off of this. And again, I'm growing, I'm learning, I definitely, it's just an ongoing process. I'm being as diligent as I can. I'm listening to other truth seekers, you know, and the Creator gives me, He reveals more and more. You know, I do believe He will reveal it all at some point. He says, "Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open. Ask and it will be given." And so I've definitely been seeking. I'm sure other people have been seeking too. But for whatever reason, the Creator, you know, you just look through the thousands of years of history, and for whatever reason, you know, sometimes He just doesn't reveal everything immediately. He has a perfect timing. So we're pressing in. We're pressing in after, feeling after Him, and, you know, no good thing will He withhold. And we're just His children, trying to be obedient, trying to meet Him, you know, at these special times of year, you know, to be obedient to Him, to learn the important lessons of these times that they teach us, but also to fellowship with Him, you know, special times of fellowship. So anyway, this seasonal transition is, like I said, it's the only clearest transition that I've seen to date, and so a lot of my understanding is based off of this, and I will continue to try and confirm both equinox and solstice events. But the other big understanding that I currently have is the seasons are equal. You know, and it's, let me see if I can, I don't know if this will be terribly helpful. It'll probably be better if we look at this picture. So, I'm going to pull these out of the way so we can see all the other data. But, you know, it's really quite simple. The seasons only happen because of the sun's movement with respect to the celestial equator. So obviously the sun is moving east to west over the course of the year, but then it's subtly moving a little bit north and a little bit south each day. And so here's the sun where it's almost in its most north position, and we're getting summer in West Virginia. And when it's way down here, we're getting winter in West Virginia, and when it's somewhere right around the middle is that other seasonal transition. And it's not rocket science. It's a very simple and beautiful design. It's almost like what they call those rotary oven or something, where it's spinning the meat in the oven. You know, this is the way the sun works, and it's not spinning per se like the rotary oven, but it's moving and it's cooking the earth. And you know, when it's close overhead you get summer, and when it's far away you get winter, and right in the middle it's not rocket science. That is where the other seasonal transition occurs, right in the middle. And so, like, modern science is saying the seasons aren't equal because of the way they're measuring, like the circumference of this disk, the edge of this disk touching the celestial equator, or different, rather than being bisected, and different things like this. But when you put all that complicated stuff aside, it's just a simple matter of, the sun has an extreme position here, and an extreme position down here, and another position right in the middle. And it is these different positions that kind of begin and end the different seasons. And so I do believe the seasons are equal. Like, they're only unequal, and I've done this. I've looked at the data. Let's see if I can pull that up. I pulled timeanddate.com's data. I think it's where is it? Right here. And I've analyzed timeanddate.com's data, and I can see where they're getting their seasons to be longer. And I've looked at the way they're defining seasons. And it's just because of the way they're defining the seasons. It's not, it's just the convenience of how they do that, but it's not really the way the creator, or Enoch, I think, told us to understand the division of the seasons. So anyway, it's important to understand this data was a clear seasonal transition for me, the clearest I have ever seen. Thankfully, I was given the opportunity to confirm that. But from there, I essentially know that the season ended on like it hit, according to Enoch, the last day of the season is like the most extreme position of the sun, the 31st day of that special month that has the last seasonal day. And so this was that extreme position, and then it started to return, and that's the new season when it starts to return. So So keep this in mind. This was the 21st, and I believe so the 20th was here, and so it progressed. It was like 9 a.m. when I collected this data, and it progressed about half a day or maybe 3/4 of a day and returned. So it's somewhere between like 16 or 18 hours from 12:20, the 20th. So if you add like 16 or 18 hours, that's approximately where it hit its extreme and started to return. So that said, that is what this is here. So again, this was when I recorded the extreme data, and then I added 16 hours to that. I've kind of toyed around with that a little bit. I think I had 18 in there before, but 16 just kind of made the numbers work out better on my calendar, and I'll show you why in a little bit. But I think it's ballpark enough. But so anyway, so that's what this is, and then I pulled that over to here, and so you can see that's all that is. From here, then, this was the end of the season. See, end of season. So that's when the season ended. So, 1 minute past that, the new season is beginning in theory. But I guess I just say it's beginning at 7 a.m. So so then, here's the beginning of the season of spring. And all I did for that was I took this timestamp that I had measured, and I'm adding an equal season to it. The solar cycle is 365.24 days, and I divided that by 4, and I'm simply adding that to the end of that season. So then the new season is beginning, it's beginning on this day. And the luminary data that everyone, the majority of witnesses seem to collect, let's see, this is what I got. This seemed to point to the first day of the spring being on the 21st, I guess, from all this data. So that seemed to work out nice. So if we transition over, I kind of just did the same thing. So for the first day of summer, all I'm doing is, all I'm doing for the first day of summer is I'm adding an equal season to that to get there. And then again, for the first day of fall, I'm adding an equal season to get there. And the interesting thing is that even though, this is 91.3301 whatever days, like, I think, you need to read Enoch, and I have other videos talking about this, but I think he talks about this, and he says the luminaries render extra service on the seasonal days. And so I think, it actually all comes out in the wash, I think. We'll examine the timestamps a little closer. But I've definitely had videos about it. If you're struggling with, I don't see any contradictions with what Enoch says. I think people are missing some important words. Some things are being lost in translation. Words like station versus days. Like Enoch says, there's 364 stations at one point in a year. And I think when he says that, he's just referring to the different positions. Let's see, where is that data? There are so the sun has one position up here, and then a position here, but somewhere between those are a bunch of different positions, and there are 364 stations or positions that the sun assumes over when it's doing this north-south shifting. I'm gonna lose myself here, but okay. So I think, again, this is the reality we're dealing with. I'm not going to go into, if someone wants to understand how I don't see any contradictions with Enoch, just let me know in the comments, and we'll get into that discussion. I'll point you either in discussion or to the other videos discussing that. But so, this is the reality. It is 365.24 for the solar cycle to complete itself, it seems. And so I'm just saying that the seasons are equal, because I can't imagine the seasons not being equal. I can't imagine the creator would do that. But I'm open to it if someone can somehow prove that to me. But so essentially that's all I did, and I'm just adding equal seasons. And the thing is, it actually just worked out nicely, because in addition, you'll see me still counting the days here. And even though there's like this extra 4 hours to make up for what the reality is. And again, I don't necessarily see disharmony with Enoch, because I do believe he says they render extra service. But anyway, because you have to realize people around the entire Earth need to see these signs, and it's more than a 24-hour period to see these signs, and there is just more to it. But anyway, but it worked out nicely, because even though there are these extra little chunks of time, it's still working out. My count is coming to 90, and then the last day of the season would be the 18th, 91, and then the first day of fall, and the Feast of Trumpets is the 19th, which I guess was actually today. And my reckoning of time currently is the days starting in the morning, and it goes from morning to morning. That's been one that I've been on my to-do list for a long time, to do a video on that topic. But anyway, so you understand that I am making the video in the evening of what would still be this day. But just to mention earlier why I changed this from 16 to 18. one of the reasons was because I figured that was close enough, it wasn't hurting anything, but also if you notice, this is saying it's like right at the end of, like if it was 2 hours forward, then it would change this date to the 20th, and it would kind of mess with the way I have these dates written here, because it would go from the 18th to the 20th, and that's not how it works. But that's still okay, because, you know, like I said, the date might have flipped, but that's only because the Gregorian standards of time start the day at midnight, and so that's why that's doing that. But for all intents and purposes, it would still be the quote-unquote 19th, starting in the morning of the 19th and ending on the morning of the 20th. So that is my understanding for trumpets, and the Day of Atonement is 10 days later, and you know, the Feast of Tabernacles is on the 15th and the 22nd. But those are the Gregorian dates for those. So this is what I share with you. This is my current understanding. You know, I hope I just, you know, I'm trying to be obedient to the scriptures. I've done the best that I can. It seems to be reasonable. If I haven't talked about it, maybe I haven't talked about it, but we should talk about the data real quick. The straight line method versus the pictures that I've been taking. So just to cover it again real quickly, you know, the north-south movement of the sun gives us the seasons, and the sun was up here in the summer, the sun's way down here in the winter, and right in the middle there, right on this red line going east to west, is the celestial equator, and it is right there that the sun makes a seasonal transition. This is all approximate, but it seems to be a pretty good ballpark, and it seems to be lining up with, you know, equal seasons and the other luminary data that I did solidly confirm last winter. But so anyway, I am looking for the sun to return to a portal position. And, you know, that's important when you're comparing the straight line method to what I'm showing you here. Because, you know, I don't see in Enoch where he says, look on the ground for the straight line method, you know. And I have concerns. If you check out the videos on my YouTube channel, particularly, okay, that one's done good. See if I can get this video here, confirming the spring equinox 2018. I go into depth about why many of the reasons I am concerned and have always been testing the straight line method, because it seems the straight line method kind of gives you on unequal seasons, and I wonder, you know, I just can't come to terms with that yet. Maybe that is the truth, but that's not what I see in Enoch, and I just can't believe the Creator would slightly make the seasons different lengths like that. I am open-minded though, but, you know, as food for thought, like I said, it's always been a concern of mine, and if you watch my previous videos, you'll run into the times when I always say I wish. Yeah, I'm concerned that at different latitudes, you might see the straight line method you might see that pattern on a different day, like 1 or 2 days apart from everyone else, depending on what your latitude is. And so I've always said I'd really love it if we could find someone near the equator to try the straight line method, and if someone near the equator saw it on the same day that people up in the north and people down in the south saw it, then I'd say that's pretty good confirmation. But I've not seen that yet, and so the result is potentially this unequal season thing, which I just can't understand right now. But so just to show you, here's the straight line method I collected today as of the 19th, and it certainly, this B data certainly looks like, you know, we've got a day or two to go before the straight line method, that pattern is going to be seen. And that seems to be a pretty close alignment with what Google and timeanddate.com are telling people is that I think the seasonal transition is going to be like on the 22nd. And if memory serves me right, you got to be careful about like when you Google when is the first day of fall or when is the fall equinox or whatever, because they call the fall equinox like the first day of the season or something, but the seasonal sign that people are looking for, if they think there's anything to Enoch, is supposed to be the last day of the season. So you just got to be careful about the way they're defining that. But so for whatever it's worth, it certainly looks like there's another day or two before all these points are going to converge on the straight line. But again, I have concerns about that, and my main concern is this is not matching up with equal seasons. And like I said, the kind of the bigger thing that I'd like you to consider is it's not matching up with the portal alignment. Like, I'm going to show you here in a minute where the sun is with respect to where the sun was during the previous spring equinox. And remember, going back, take a peek at this data, it was looking like the majority of witnesses come from the first day of spring to be the 21st. And so the sign would have been seen on the 20th. And so, here's the 20th right here. And I'm going to show you that the sun appears to have returned to this position and is past that position now, slightly. And so, like I said, the thing to think about with that is, if you value Enoch at all, you've got to realize that Enoch is very, very position-based. Like, he is describing time to you in terms of the exact positions of the sun in these portals. So just to give you an idea, I think these are the portals that Enoch described. Right between 3 and 4, you've got the celestial equator, the middle of heaven. This fourth portal is the great portal where, the sun starts to climb towards spring, and when it hits up here, first day of summer, and it returns, and when it crosses this line, it's fall, and when it gets down to this extreme, winter begins, and it returns up here again, and when it hits this line, it crosses into that fourth great portal, and you get spring again. But anyway, so Enoch is very position-based, and, I just want you to consider, like, there's got to be something to the sun returning to the same position. Whether or not whatever we may think about the straight line pattern, you've got to also consider whatever is happening on the Earth at potentially the different latitudes. Just look up at the heavens and see where is the sun with respect to where the sun was, back in March. And I believe the ancient people did this. Like, they built sundials, they built star gazing rooms, like with windows, so you could see an alignment of certain stars and figure out like when the sun is going to be in that window, and stuff like that. So the data I collected today seems to show that the sun is certainly near or past where it was on the 20th. So I'm going to drag all these over there so you can see it's kind of hard because it just was getting so crowded. I couldn't figure out which layer these pictures had to be in. So I'm going to drop it in there so you can see where it is. It's just a slightly hair past that rough celestial equator I've drawn in there, and when I do this you can kind of see behind it to where the sun was on the 20th. And then I'll drop in a couple more, and you can see it's a little lower than the celestial equator and a little lower. So, like I said, I've always been testing the straight line method. I think it's an interesting phenomenon, but I do always wonder about it, and I don't feel peace about it. I don't think I'll ever feel peace about it until I see someone at the equator actually do it and see that pattern on the same day that everyone else sees it. But this is something I have to consider, that the sun has returned to the same north-south alignment position, portal position or gate that it was in for the spring equinox. And if the seasons are truly equal, then that should be the end of 2 seasons and the beginning of the 3rd season of fall. So that's the way I'm seeing it right now. That is what the times are based off of. It was tough, you know. It was kind of close, I guess. I've been on the fence. Wondering what's going to happen with this luminary data. Like I'm seeing, you know, I'm seeing roughness even in the data I collected. Like I've seen variability in this data. Like it could be, I took 2 pictures at the same time and it kind of bounced up a little bit and came back down, not that much, but you know, enough to show that this method that I'm doing here is really only a ballpark, and I'm not going to completely hang my hat on this. I need to perfect this method. I think it's a pretty good ballpark, but what I guess the calendar is based off of right now, the timing of these holy days, is again, it's based off of this confirmation that I made, because this is the clearest I have ever seen. There's no question about it. This is a seasonal transition that occurred about at least 12 hours after the 20th. It hit its extreme and the new season began. And so I've essentially run off of that timestamp, and assuming equal seasons, I'm coming up with these dates, and coincidentally it actually works out to be the correct count that Enoch talks about. And there's just a whole lot of other things to consider. Like I said, the duration of a sign day, the creator's shifting international dateline as opposed to the man-made international dateline that never moves. And you got to realize that there are always 2 Gregorian dates running simultaneously. Think about that for a minute. You know, there are always 2 dates running simultaneously. Like, okay, so it might be the 19th here right now where I'm at, but in Japan it's already the 20th, and it's always like that. There are always 2 dates running concurrently depending on where you are because of the man-made international dateline. Another thing you can think about is, you know, how long is a Sabbath day from a bird's eye view if you were the creator looking down on Earth? Like, how long is the creator sitting around, you know, fellowshipping with his creatures every Sabbath? Like, it's more than 24 hours. Time is not what people think. Like, in order for everyone on Earth to have that opportunity to have a 24-hour period of Sabbath with the Creator, it ends up being closer to 48 hours. And so what I'm trying to tell you is there are overlaps of time that people aren't seeing. There truly are. I mean, and yes, it is 365.24 for good reason too. Like, I have other videos talking about how he changes the times and the seasons, and that design of his with the extra 0.24 is really amazing, because it constantly keeps people, like, they have to do what he told us to do. Watch. Like Genesis 1:14. Watch for these luminaries. These are my timepieces. Watch them, and you will know my times. And I'm currently not convinced that these counting calendars are reflecting the Creator's true times. Like, he said we could count from the first day of the first month and from the first day of the 7th month, but he didn't tell us to count 364 days, or, you know, 30, 30, 31, 30, 30, 31. You know, he didn't tell us to do that. Yes, I think Jubilees or the Dead Sea Scrolls or something might talk about that, but the Creator didn't say it. You know, Genesis 1:14 didn't say it. Genesis 1:14 said these lights are going to be they're going to tell you what time is, and you're not going to need to make decisions like intercalations. So my understanding of the Creator's times does not involve intercalation. The times are just fluid, and it works perfectly. Everything is in harmony. I do believe there is a perfect reason for everything, and you know, it's just something I put a lot of thought into. I'm definitely open to talking, iron sharpening iron, but I can't say it enough. If the Creator has put this on your heart, you really need to dig in. And some of this can be complicated, maybe just because I'm not the wise man, and I'm making it complicated. But the simplicity of it is really quite simple, and that is that the sun, we only have seasons as a result of the sun's movements. And if you understand that your calendar should have solar months, then the solar months should be fitting inside of the solar seasons and the solar years like fingers in a glove. And your first day of the 7th month should be the first day of fall, and it should be the first day of the 7th solar month. It should be the first day of the second half of the solar year. And I think that's what Enoch describes. And I think that's what Genesis 1:14 tells us to do, because Genesis 1:14 said the luminaries were for, at the very least, it said the time concept of a year. And clearly, if we just step back and look at the timepieces, it's clear what a year is. Like, it's not the moon. There's something that happens on this earth, and it has a very steady, natural, keyword natural, year cycle, and it's called the seasonal year cycle. It's the modern science calls it the tropical year, but that I see is the year cycle. It's a solar year, and it's solar months, it's solar seasons, it's in perfect harmony with Enoch, and it makes beautiful sense with Leviticus 23 when it talks about the first day of the 7th month. Like, this is my current understanding. Feel free to contribute iron sharpening iron. I am open to diligently test all things. So I created this channel, in my Facebook groups, not as a place for me to share my thoughts, but really it's supposed to be a place for iron sharpening iron to occur. And it's always welcome. So please feel free to do that. That is the purpose of these platforms. It's not just for me to try and shoot down anyone I don't agree with, but since it is my channel, I will do my best to just have loving iron sharpening iron. If someone wants to share, that's fine. If I don't agree, I might let them know in love and humility that doesn't make sense to me right now. For the benefit of the other viewers who might want to know where I stand on someone else's comment, but it's all should be done in love, and that's one of the ways we grow, is loving iron sharpening iron. So do feel free to contribute your thoughts, and I guess that, like I said, I'll in the other video, I'll keep monitoring the movements of the luminaries tomorrow, and maybe definitely tomorrow. So we'll see what the straight line is doing. I'm guessing it might not be straight tomorrow, maybe the day after, and we'll see. We'll take a few more pictures of the sun to see where it's at. Other than that, stay tuned, because I am coming out with it's going to be like a rapid fire series examining the Dead Sea Scrolls and these Qumran Dead Sea Scroll Zadok Priestly Order calendars. And I think I've said enough about that in other videos, so stay tuned for that if you're interested in testing these calendars. I have some iron sharpening iron to share with you, and if you're a diligent truth seeker, you'll want to hear what I have to say about that. So until then, shalom, and may Abba bless you as you continually seek his truths in love with a pure heart.